in.
Cool.
It was neat.
Did you make them?
No,
Or
but we
have-
ordered about 250 of them to give out.
All right.
And I took one.
All right, I'd like to call this regular city council meeting to order, August 14th at 7:01 PM. For roll call, all present with the exception of Janice, who is excused. Any visitors would like to be recognized? Yes, no, maybe. All right, pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. As we have kind of changed things up a little bit, for the people that are in the visitors gallery, do we have any public comments to begin with? If not, okay, moving on. Any additions to the agenda?
None for me.
None here. Okay. Moving right along. We are at that time of the year where we have library board changes up. Sometimes maybe this is year we will again have changes. We in fact have two. So position number 2 elected not to run or not to continue for a second term. And then we have one resignation that goes into effect on September 1st. I guess it's their first meeting in September is when she's formally going to resign. And that's position number 3, Marge Sackett. She just has some things that she needs to attend to. So I have asked them, and they have gone out and advertised and solicited for people. And as mayor, I would like to present to you Rebecca Hardy I'm appointing, or I guess, what am I saying? I'm putting before you Rebecca Hardy for the position number 2, who would serve for another 5 years. And it does require a council approval of that. Or not. So, do we have,
Do you need a motion?
I believe we do.
I motion that we accept Rebecca Hardy as the new appointed library board member.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Abstention.
3.
I'm gonna tell her that.
Okay, and the other person that I would like to present for the position number 3 to replace in September would be Anna Sandegram.
You may contact her, I don't know who that is, it doesn't matter.
They do at the library board. I don't know her personally either. I know her.
I believe that's Kevin Sandegren's
That's
wife.
what I was
Okay.
told, yes.
Okay.
So, same question. Is that okay
So
with you
moved.
guys? Okay. Stephen, first.
And a second?
Okay. We have a first and a second. Any conversation, any discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Can we, well, I guess I should have said, can we legally put her in or do this without,
It wouldn't be
Sure.
until September,
okay.
the first meeting in September. So, not ahead of time.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
replacing March
March
2nd?
2nd, yeah.
Okay.
So, next on the agenda, we have the question, I did send out some information with regard to locations, what have you, but to allow electric vehicle charging stations on the public right of way, pretty much kitty corner from where we're sitting right now. Anything to present or say or elaborate on?
I'd say, do you have any questions? I don't know.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about what that means, what that looks
So
like?
it would be on the perpendicular side?
Yeah, on Main
Side
Street,
street.
yeah.
Okay, that's gonna cut down on your parking, I'm sure.
Two spots.
Two spots? Oh,
But not if you're parking an electric vehicle.
well, yes.
Is that the only, I have a couple questions. Is that the only option you have?
So the meter, well, that's what they, well, I think we proposed somewhere on that side, just because if it was in front of the building on Third Street, that's a state highway, probably not feasible there. The meter box is on this side door, so that's gonna run straight to the meter, is where they're gonna hook it up to the panel, I guess. And so we opted to put it towards the back versus the front, so it wouldn't take parking up right there in the front.
Is this a grant or through Vista?
Yeah,
The only questions I have, I mean, I'm totally dead set against the idea, but is snow removal, was that, any type of city work, is that gonna interfere? Who's responsible? Number one. Number two, I don't know the answers to this, but is it gonna set a precedence that we, as a city, doesn't want going forward with other people of using city property or encroaching on public property? And that's why I was asking, is there any other way
so we don't own
that,
it. It's not,
Right.
Avista would own the charging station. It's open to anybody, it's open to the public, there's no cost to use the charging station. We're gonna bear any cost that would be associated with the electricity of that station. But anyone, it's open to anybody to use at any time, 24 hours a day. Snow removal, usually somebody comes and pushes it either from the city or there's been a private citizen, two different private citizens in the past that have pushed snow out of there. I don't,
So you guys are gonna pay for the electric bill on it?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
so, is that gonna hamper, you probably already thought this out, but is that gonna turn into a fisticuffs out there, somebody in that spot needs it, and, you have a lot of customers, you have two, I think, proposed, right, two spots?
it's one station that has two handles.
Okay. I know a lot of people that do park, including yourselves, on that side. Is that gonna interfere with business? I mean, if somebody that doesn't have an EV, is it like a handicap spot, reserved only for EVs type thing?
People now park over here, like across the street
Yeah.
where Stevens Park. They park directly across the street. They park on both sides of Third Street now. I don't foresee it being a problem.
But enforcement wise, I mean, if somebody, like if I park there and I'm in there having a donut or using your facilities and visiting, and somebody pulls up and
Wants to charge a vehicle,
expresses a
I might say,
concern.
David, yeah, do you mind It's like you park your rig up there.
Yeah.
Do you mind moving it across the street or next to it so this person can come in there?
Is that gonna be full on, you to police that, or is that something that we'll have to, in our code enforcement stuff, have to drop the hammer on?
My personal opinion on that is I think we wait to see it become an issue before we address it. The proactive thing we could do is literally paint parking lines across the street so it attracts people to park forward in across the street here, which is also,
Well, will you require, and you know, it's too bad that isn't all pavement. You could just, I'm sure, just guessing, in bigger cities, they have it marked out with EV vehicle or, you know, painted on the spot and everything for them.
There'll be a sign on the
Right.
actual charger that says for EV vehicles only, so as you pull in, you would see that.
I kind of think that's a deterrent to anybody that would want to park a diesel vehicle or a gas vehicle.
Well, I'm just trying to think ahead of future, you know, address stuff that human nature will probably
I think we've
happen.
ever run out of parking, or, I mean, we've never had an issue with not enough parking. Or
Like, you know, during a parade, you know, the people park, but I guess it's not mandated, or it's not by law, like parking in a handicap, you're not gonna get towed,
no,
Right.
you know, that type of thing. It's just more of a courtesy.
it's a courtesy thing. I will tell you that I was there this morning, first thing, and you had a full house. I mean, there wasn't any place to sit. And ironically, they were parked in the front on both sides of the road and every other place, and there was still open spaces right about where you're talking about, so.
Have you checked, ADA requirements? Is it gonna interfere with any of that on the sidewalk, wheelchairs?
It's right in front of the sidewalk, so it's in the gravel area.
Okay. Like I said, I'm not picking on you, I'm just trying to throw everything out there before. So it's, cause this is just I just saw this last night or the night before, you know, cause I've been busy, so we haven't had a time to kick it around.
So, this is kind of your guys' call.
Now, I guess the question before us, did we grant you folks, your business, an easement or opportunity, or this is all free, right? Nothing, so there's no reason why, and the reason why I'm going here is no monetary kickback to the city or vice versa, because they're,
We're not charging for anything, so
Yeah,
we're not
okay.
gonna gain fees from like a charging station there. Like you could put up it's not connected to a network to where you slide your credit card. So like I said, it's free to the public for anyone that wants to use an EV or has an EV that wants to use it. It's free.
it will help promote your business, or, you know, people have that, it'll help you.
I don't think
It help
it's our,
business-
I think our business, but I think all the
Anybody,
businesses downtown.
right.
Uh, People can park there and walk up, grab a pizza, or
Okay.
they can go across the street to the shops over there.
Or go golfing.
Do we need any type of lease or understanding, whatever it's called,
I don't think we do.
Vista with any of that? I mean,
Having read a similar lease for putting in an EV station with the Vistas program, they pretty much cover everything. Pretty much every cost involved with putting it in. The slacks
And
are-
removing it.
Yeah. So the slacks are bearing the cost of the electricity being burned.
if something happens to somebody's vehicle, I mean, who are they gonna go after, Vista? You guys were held
It's-
harmless and,
It's a Vista's property.
Yeah.
okay, well, I just, like I said, I was just throwing it out there so we can
Yeah.
all discuss it.
I don't know if we need a resolution or to use the right of way, because it's kind of for public consumption, so I didn't really see that it needed any.
Well, the only thing I would say, if for, maybe we need something with Avista to grant them, and it might be part of, that contract that we, wanted, or we're going over.
Franchise agreement?
Yeah, thank you. That could fall in line with all this too.
Well, we're
I mean,
still-
I think it's a great idea. Okay, I mean, right now, from what you presented.
So I'll be straight up, if we are waiting for that franchise agreement to come to terms before we say yes to this, I don't know how far off that's gonna be.
Well, I don't think we will have to, I'm just saying, do we hit them, Avista, and say, hey, we'll grant you this, an easement for whatever, for 10 years? Do we even need that?
I think our franchise agreement, quite honestly, already covers it, because it talks about city right-of-ways. So it's already included in that agreement.
Yeah, that's why I wish I had the attorney go, okay, yeah, no. Okay.
Well, we're still operating under a franchise agreement, it's just one that was done 10 years ago.
So I guess the question what are we voting, what are we proposing that give, yes?
I guess it gives us the right to engage with Avista to install that there and hook into our power. The only reason we have to come to you is because it's on city property.
Right.
Even though it's accessing our
So your
electricity.
liaison.
Yeah, but it's because we're paying for it, for the electricity, but it's because it's on a public right of way that, we wanted to make sure that the city was okay with that. And, I mean, it's used as parking now, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Do most of those stations charge? I've never even looked at one, or are they all?
Some do, some don't.
Oh,
You
okay.
mean by money charge or?
Yeah, I mean, there's
Do they work?
there's not gonna be, I just kind of wondered, I mean, like you see them at
Some do,
a
some
gas station, or we'll say, Tesla charging station. I didn't know if,
I know several businesses, like, they put them up on them because it promotes, or, I got an EV, and like, oh, that place is EV friendly, there you go. Well, they go
put
there.
that out on a sign out front, EV friendly, and EV charging station.
I charge for that register, no, I.
I'll
But
be painted on a sign.
And then to Joe's point about timing, they know that we're, because they were out, I think, about 2 weeks ago, and then we told them we were coming to the council meeting. It was trying to get it on the council meeting agenda.
Yeah.
So they're just waiting, they can start whenever, but they just know they needed approval from someone other than us, really, to do it.
Well, to be honest with you, I would approve it, but with the contention that a quick, if that's even possible, to the attorney to say, do we need something with Avista or not? Other than that, I'm cool with it. Just to cover, the cities and everybody's base. I mean, does anybody else feel that way?
Trying to figure out exactly how we would phrase all of this.
What timeline are you looking at, Justin? Or
I
Heather?
think they would probably start next,
Tell them this next week. but-
yeah, they would just start next week, or,
So for Fall Festival, we'll be up and going?
Probably.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so bear with me as I try and wordsmith this motion. I move that the council grant to Avista an easement to use city property for the purposes of a charging station in front of the post and office per the franchise agreement that we already have in place with Avista, contingent upon any objections from our attorney at the discretion of the mayor.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second to that motion.
It's on tape. so-
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I would love to say aye to that too, but not my role. Okay,
I guess, did
I will
you?
call our city attorney tomorrow morning. I've got other stuff I've got to do with him also, so reach out to you. Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for offering. That's the closest charging station that I know of is out in,
Ritzville.
yeah,
Davenport.
Ritzville.
Oh,
Is there one in Davenport?
At the museum.
Oh,
So there's one behind Public Health as well in the parking lot.
Oh, there's
Oh, I
one at
haven't
my
seen
house.
that. wow.
In the wall. No, thanks for taking that on and paying
Yeah.
that bill. That's awful nice.
Is that, I don't know enough about that. It says 40 amps is what Vista's willing to put in. Is that considered
This is tier 2.
economy, deluxe, premium?
It's a tier 2 charging station.
Okay. Which
200
still-
amp, I believe, is a tier 3 station.
Which, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but it takes on average 8 hours to charge a car from 0 to the top
Oh,
on that 40 amp, so, you know.
If it's empty.
If it's empty, yeah.
Well, look how much coffee and stuff they could sell.
Yeah.
Well, or up and down the street, or like she said, buying pizza, or going golfing, or whatever.
Somebody might buy a house.
And going forward too, I know it's kind of, well, same subject, but the city square, wasn't there some wild, an idea
Yeah,
that they were gonna
that's-
put some in? Is that
That's
still?
why I'm familiar with that agreement on putting
Right.
it in, because I had a chance to read it. Yeah, the issue up there is just a matter of who's gonna pay for it, getting that nailed down. Because
Yeah.
the city can't,
Right.
so.
It'd be a gifting of public funds.
Yeah, so it's as prepared as it can be right now to have another EV station up there. And
Yeah.
Vista's already
Okay.
agreed to do that, so, and that agreement's still in place, so.
Okay.
We're fortunate that a business is willing to do this. There's very few levers that the city can pull that would be within a purview that I think we would all agree with in order to increase sales tax revenue. So,
I guess, are you folks satisfied? I guess is my question to you.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Okay, I have on the agenda to have an executive session. I think we could do it in 10, 15 minutes, at least to start, and just to, if nothing else, to outline what's going on. Yes, Steve?
one option that we would have, since 2 of our guests are departing, do you have anything that you want to say or you saw on the agenda that you were interested to hear?
No, I was just interested in listening and seeing what was going on, so, yeah. As well.
Didn't bring cookies or anything?
No, not this time.
Nice seeing you,
So I do
Joe.
have one quick question for you.
Yeah.
And it's on our agenda, but I'll just ask it. What's the possibility that the county has a contractor roster developed?
Small Works,
Yeah,
Public Works roster.
yeah.
We go through a vendor through MRSC right now,
Okay.
I believe.
The same one. Okay, that's on our agenda. So
Okay.
I was just, someone had suggested to see if you guys had developed your own.
No, nope. So
Okay.
ours is, through MRSC.
Okay, cool,
Okay, sounds good.
awesome.
Thanks. Have a good night.
See you, Joe. Thanks for stopping.
Yeah.
Bring cookies next time.
All right, Joe, you want to declare the end time of this?
Yes, so an executive session, let's call it 15 minutes let's call it 10 minutes at 7:33.
Second, having
Right now, when I.
technical difficulty here.
We're alone. I'm sorry? Resumes at 7:34. I'm sorry, 34.
All right. For those on the YouTube, for some reason my executive session slide is not working properly, so I'm going to put it into pre-start. So that's why you're seeing something here. 7:34, you said it's the ending time?
Yes.
double muted just. Okay, we're on.
We're good. Right, we're back. Okay, so we've had an executive session to discuss some performance issues of a past employee. Do we have any open discussion?
I move that we authorize the mayor to engage the services of a forensic accountant.
Independent.
Independently and on an ad hoc basis.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table for the city to hire a forensic accountant. Any further discussion?
Temporary.
Temporary,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, no further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 No nays, thank you. All right. Thank you for the time on that. I sent out an email a week or more ago about this small works roster. Did that make sense to you guys to understand? It kind of snuck up on me and suddenly it was here and I had to go through, that's why I sent you guys a lot of the links,
Right.
just so that you could read what I was reading. So,
The only question I have, Mr. Mayor, is the small works roster, is that, that's not a vendors,
yes.
that is the vendors list? That it has nothing to do with, the only thing I'm familiar with is that before it goes to bid, it has to reach a certain, like you're good, you can use small works up to like 20, I'm speaking years ago, like $20,000. You don't have to put it out for open bid. Is that the same thing we're thinking here
I
or
think that's
not?
the issue, is that is effectively going away. There was, as of July 1st,
They changed some.
they changed it.
So
Now, when, for example, the recent replacement of the well,
yeah,
because that was done on an emergency basis, I do know that that's one of the exceptions, because when I found out about this, I was thinking, oh crap, are we out of compliance with the state RCW? And it was like, no, it was an emergency basis, so we're okay there. What it simply means is
somebody have that, pull it up and put it.
the
Right.
which.
No, go ahead. Keep.
Okay. So the small works roster is, for example, the water main under the tracks, we effectively followed everything that we were supposed to do.
Mhm.
Now this, mind you, this is for $350,000 contracts and less, is where this issue is. But when a
Wow.
project is being planned, even if it's our Willis Street replacement, which was underneath that, what the RCW is saying now is we're supposed to, and I haven't explored it, but there's actually an online portal where we put that project out there
For people to bid on.
for people to bid on. And it doesn't matter whether they're here, there, or everywhere. You know, it's not just putting it in the paper to broadcast locally. It's out there for all the people who have, all the contractors who have registered themselves and gone through the vetting process to qualify for this.
And the dollar figure now is 350,000?
Up to 350,000 or less, you're supposed to use the small works roster for your projects if you're sending them out to a contractor.
Well, I'll have to read about it, but I was just used to like around 25 or 30,000 if you had a project that you didn't have to do that, but that, what you're seeing is not saying that?
I don't know if there was a small limit. I got the impression in reading this that that's gone.
Well, a good example of that, I know you, a municipality this size, whatever, you're not gonna get something for under 20,000 anyways, with the exception, the pavement patches and stuff like that. That's a good example. What are we supposed to do according to this?
Once we, so we have, we either have to develop our own roster,
Uh-huh. Which are vendors.
which are vendors, contractors, what have you, and there's a whole list of requirements. Only the biggest municipalities, the Spokanes, Seattle's, what have you, have developed their own list. And that's why I asked Joe, as a county, have they developed their own list? And she's like, no, we're just gonna use this one. Because this one, I guess, is the state authorized, licensed small vendor list.
Yeah, they apply,
Yeah, so we can either develop our own, or we can use this, but we're supposed to use this, and it has to do with the DEI type stuff.
affirmative
That's-
action,
yes,
all that kind of stuff.
all of that. So,
Disadvantaged. Forget them.
yeah, so that's the issue. I think it's gonna, I told you guys I thought it was around 300 a year for it. I've heard from other places it's like $130
Oh, of course, they're gonna charge.
if they are gonna charge. And but if
Imagine
you-
that.
Like I said, I did some poking around. There is a lot of vetting that they have to do. And the vendors, quite honestly, have to buy into it too. It's almost like Angie's List where they have to buy into
Oh, I know, yeah. Yeah, so
that. But
it's advertised, they put their name in with the state, and any municipality with a project is supposed to go to this pool of people and say, hey, somebody over in Everett, Washington, that Harrington has a project over here, wants to go do it.
so
Correct?
yeah. So the issue becomes, we clearly are going into a season here soon. I mean, the asphalt is something that's going to be immediate and pressing, but we have a lot of other work that's going to be getting done in this city, especially using state dollars, state and federal dollars. So we can't. I think that's going to be a requirement because all these projects are going to have to go into the small works roster.
Okay, next question, Mr. Mayor. We do all this, and we have a project, and so we're supposed to put out, this is our project. Where does the engineers fit into it, and how do, how do you pick the right one? Do you have to, are you supposed to pick the low bid, or just because of this? Because I know we sat through one, what was it, Stephen, that we went through, and it was a bidding process, and they opened them all up. What the heck was that for? I can't remember.
We did it for the emergency.
That was
Well,
for
it was
the,
before that.
that was for the Adams Street project.
Maybe it was, yes, it was. Okay, we get to do all that. Is the city required to take the lowest lowball figure?
Mm-hmm.
There's one flip side to that. I'd like to make sure, because a lot of people will come in and lowball it, and then turn around with change orders and make up the difference, you know. But that's another attorney thing and another how they write it up, that we don't get stuck with that, because that's the game they play.
Right. Well, on the projects that we're talking about too, they're going to be getting a performance bond,
Right?
which says that they're going to do the job. And then there's always retainage where they're retaining, they're holding back 5% to make sure the job gets done.
Are we out of compliance right now with anything that we have, excuse me,
No.
with our engineers and the whole bid?
No.
No, okay, I didn't.
But I'll tell you what, I think before we enter into another contract for mowing lawns, if that ever came, I think it has to go to the small works roster, the way I'm reading it.
You better get on there, Gavin. Well, okay, now our asphalt, you reached out, there's only, what, two companies? One that was willing to do it, the other one you searched out for didn't really care.
I got two bids, and then about the time I got the second bid, the TIB money came in, and they're like going, well, we're gonna be doing this and this and this and this, so I put brakes on everything
Right.
because it was gonna get done. We're gonna have to, there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on with that. We don't have time to go into during this meeting, but we're going to.
Have to pound
soon.
that out.
But we've gotta get back on that, and there's other projects, we've got a driveway over there that we need to get repaired, and I'm trying to find out if that's covered by the insurance or not.
So do we have a resolution for this?
There was a resolution that was put together by the MRSC.
I see a sample, but
Yeah.
that's not filled out enough for us to vote on it.
No, I want to know, is that okay? The question really was, is that okay to get that modified, run it past our attorney, and then present it to you?
Sure.
Or do you want to go down a different path? That's really the deal, because I want to make sure that you guys are,
I think once you talk to the attorney, he's gonna give you some guidance, hopefully, real quick. Present him with that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're on the right
So-
track.
My request would be that this authorization is written with an expiration of 1 year. The way I look at it, for the most part, we're rarely going to be able to ever do much of anything in the city with our own monies. Percentage-wise, we'll be doing things with state monies and federal monies far more often than we will be doing things from our own piggy bank.
Or grant monies and.
So, like, we could object to this and try and drag our feet all we want, but if the money comes with the prerequisite that we have to have an applicable thing, then it's a question of do we want to repair things in this town or not. But that being said, I could see this requirement becoming increasingly impactful, and perhaps the county would develop its own list at some point, or I don't really want to be stuck into this for a long period of time, because I see a lot of potential for this to be limiting towards capitalism, frankly. So for the next year, I think we have bigger fish to fry, and we need to make sure that the grant monies keep flowing into the city. But that might not be true every year. We might have more of an opportunity to address this.
I would say in the next 5 years, if the projects that we have need to be done, we're gonna be
locked into the.
we're gonna be using a lot of other people's money,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of taxpayer dollars to do stuff. And the first thing that's probably gonna come up is our wastewater treatment plant, because as soon as that remodel is approved, it's out to bid.
But at that point, aren't we still under the constraints of that
Now,
small
that
works
one-
roster?
That one probably doesn't go to the small works roster because it's definitely
Okay.
over 350,000.
Right, but some of the other stuff, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, there's any number of things that could come up.
well, if we can get, I agree, if we can get away with a year, $130 or whatever.
I'm sure there's highly probable that some sort of project is gonna come up where we have to hire an outside contractor.
Well, the pavement,
It could be the pave, it
Trees.
could be that we have another water main break that's bigger than what we can afford. So,
Well, that would fall under emergency,
that's true.
but yeah,
So,
for $130, I think we have better things to do for this
Well-
next year.
I'll add that to the David call, Bingaman call.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
First name basis.
Same initials too.
We pay him.
Yeah.
okay. I also put on there this Lincoln County Solid Waste Management Plan. I did, as I mentioned, present that to our attorney. He did get back to me and said, we need to talk. So we probably don't want to beat that up right now because he's got some backstory and he wants to go through it with me. So why don't we just table that for now?
I do have one question though.
Yeah.
If I was reading this correctly, and I will admit that I was skimming it, but is this the basis for requiring us to either dump at the county's wastewater or the
Transfer
the
station.
waste transfer station, or pay a fine?
I haven't gotten that deep into it. I don't know.
I-
I read through it once. I didn't see that requirement built into it.
Well-
I get the impression this is
Waste
a
bins.
box they're supposed to check off for the
Well,
state.
it says that all of the participating authorities commit to funding it.
And I
Yes.
believe Bingaman's quick mention was that was one of his issues. So, I don't know. Honestly.
I mean, I don't know that Sunshine is interested in trying to haul to any other county, but I have not necessarily gotten the impression that the county has been managing solid waste with an idea to being competitive to the other options that are theoretically feasible. So if that document is the basis for requiring that we dump our solid waste up there, then I am critical of it.
That's a good point. I took it as our recycle bins requirement. And all, I took it as part of that we're required, because it does give you a chance. I read a paragraph, and I'll go back to it at this moment, but something about if we choose, this is voluntary, well, politely back out or forced to do this. I mean, we don't have to agree to it. We can say, heck with it.
Well, we don't have to, but it does say that if you terminate, you will be required to come up with your own solid waste plan per the RCW. And if you look at that RCW, it goes on and on and on and on. Similar to the process for maintaining our own small works list, we're probably going to have to use someone else's plan, I'm guessing, because the amount of time that it would take us to come up with our own, like tire recycling, and like just the RCW goes, I mean, it's insane. So if we don't use someone's, then we've got a huge commitment on our hands. But still, I was interested in the fact that letter by, was it Greg?
Yes, Greg, somebody there.
I said Greg Dobb, it's not Greg Dobb, but
It said that they incorporated some feedback from municipalities in this latest version. And I don't know exactly what the process was on the mayor's offering that feedback, but depending on how open to feedback they are, we might have some additional of our own.
So I got their preliminary draft a couple, 3 weeks ago, and I briefly went through it, and I just said, wow, basically kind of harsh, because it was like, Harrington doesn't do anything on this particular topic. I'm like, well, dang. Whatever. Like, we don't communicate at all with, the state is really big on reducing solid waste.
Like, how's that gonna happen?
Well, and
Throw it in the
they were
river?
basically saying Harrington doesn't have a program at all.
Burn it?
Well,
We have all the free programs we can come up with.
right. So, anyway, he did change some of the language as far as Harrington was concerned to kind of soften it up and not make us look like we're completely back in the Stone Age. So,
Well, honestly, I don't care if we're on mic or not, but it looked like it was a money grab in the long run.
what I didn't like is the part where it's kind of like you need to buy into this because the county's doing this on their own, but if you don't,
Right.
then we're going to share the extra costs of having this plan approved with everyone else, with all our municipalities. It's like, oh crap. Anyway. So anyway, let's not dig into that one too much deeper, unless somebody else has something they really want to address.
No.
No, we'll
Okay.
address this at a later date, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon, because they need to have it done, I think, in 30, 90 days or something like that. So, okay. We're at the start of the budget season, and as mayor, I will determined to not have us have a December 31st emergency council meeting to approve the budget. Yes. So, this is not my calendar, this is actually the calendar that MRSC has, but it's quite doable. So I'll be working with our department heads throughout September to get a budget from them, what they want to see. The beginning of October, I will be presenting to you guys our revenues anticipated for 2025. So we'll start with the money that we were anticipating getting in. At that point, we're gonna need to schedule a public hearing, and so sometime between the mid-October and mid-November, we have to have a public hearing talking about revenues specifically, but this is gonna be the door where we wanna open and start having our workshops. And what's important to you, these are what I want to make sure we have a lot of communication in these so that we can get a nice solid budget done. The budget I will be presenting to you probably by email because this says I have to have it to you by November 2nd or before. So that's probably going to come to you by email because we won't have a council meeting by then.
Okay.
And there, at that time, we have to publish a notice of a public hearing about the budget and make that budget presented and available to the public. November, and so we're gonna need a lot of back and forth. There's nothing in here that says, you know, when you have to meet to have discussions about this and that and all the rest of it. But we're gonna need to have it so that when it comes time, oh, yes, we have the normal November 30th tax levy 1% deal, but
Right.
we're not gonna miss that. But the first week, this says specifically December 2nd, so we'll be at a sequence of our council meetings, but we're supposed to have the budget hearing. So that's kind of a put the hammer down and get all the bits and pieces approved because my goal is at our normal council meeting on December 11th, we're good to go and sign and adopt our 2025 budget 3 weeks before the end of the year. So we're not messing with it after that. Comments, questions, ideas?
Anything else say mine for the workshop? So we get it, so we get into it. I think you're on the right path.
Okay.
The budget committee is myself and Janice.
I believe so, yes.
Did you kill something over there? Is that,
Nothing bigger than a spider, I hope.
oh jeez.
There's a bee.
Oh,
Well, it's the yellow jacket.
Yeah, sure.
Killer bee.
So this might not be super popular, and I would remind the council as before I would say this, that just because we would potentially have these meetings does not require the council members to be in attendance. But I would recommend that we start the workshops as soon as possible, at least once a month, perhaps before the meeting. And the reason primarily for me is this. It was a great help in making last year's budget. The Springbrook is starting to produce numbers that are very helpful for us to take last year's budget and modify it in ways that make sense. A pet peeve of mine is that the way we're supposed to budget makes it very difficult, in my opinion, to reason about it. And I'll give you one example. So if you were to say, well, next year we're going to budget for a 5% raise in salaries, okay? The way we do salaries is that it's broken up, especially in public works, by what they're working on. That you have some salary represented in cemetery and some in water and some in this and some in that and some in the other thing. And so there's no line item for salaries. Like the way a normal person, I think, would just go through and think about a budget like, okay, we're going to pay this much for office supplies. We're going to We can't, as far as what my understanding is, we can't break it out like that. We have to subdivide it and make it all complicated. So what I'd like to do is work on a framework where we can talk about a budget in a simple way and then translate that to be like, this is our budget for salaries. X% of it goes here, X% of it goes here. Like we can derive what we need to actually put in Springbrook, but we can reason about it in the way we would do our own home budgets. Because I still find, I've been on looking at these budgets for years, and I still find it very difficult to reason about the way they're laid out. And if you haven't seen one yet with all the pages, I guess Gavin probably hasn't. It's really fun to just see, like, what is it, 24 pages of line items of things and be like, yeah, sure, I understand what this means.
Different codes. So what he's saying, instead of doing the budget the way Springbrook wants it done, we do a budget that makes sense, and then we populate Springbrook
As a
the way
derivative.
it breaks it apart. But
Mhm.
we have our common sense.
Right.
For example, if we're going to buy a new piece of machinery, we know that we're going to spend $50,000 for it. Springbrook is going to break that into $24,000 goes to wastewater treatment, or to sewer. 18,000 of it goes to water, and the rest of it goes to the cemetery. Well, when you're trying to look at that and budget based on the way Springbrook does it, it's like, okay, And those three numbers aren't close. They're on 4
Mhm.
different pages
Hmm.
scattered through this 24-page document. So,
If you're Rain Man, it's pretty easy to work with, but the rest of us have way too many numbers to try and
Yeah.
keep in our head at the same time.
okay.
I would just add my 2 cents is that for the mayor, you're working on this budget, that you revisit chapter 4 of our policy and guidelines on the procedures for wages and we have to set the line in the
Exactly.
sandboxes and all that,
Yep.
that we have not done in some time.
Yeah, the cost of living.
And
is-
all of it,
is- Yeah.
and it's here on, it's in chapter 4 of our, and it outlines a bunch of stuff. It's not only that, but it's kind of a foundation of setting up a budget, a brief discussion, because that was one of the things that so-called audit said, is that we don't follow our policies and procedures. They climbed us on.
Yeah.
That was 3 years ago,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. So as far as workshops, when do you guys, or when do you propose getting started?
I would do it at the next meeting, but again, there might be 2 phases to this. The earliest phase will be those of us who want to talk about how do we make this pseudo budget that makes sense and translate that into Springbrook. I'm not trying to exclude anyone, but not everyone probably needs to be a part of that. The more essential part will happen on the timeline that Joe talked about a little bit later in the year. I would certainly encourage anyone to get to know the budget more. It will help as we get to the end of the year. But I don't think this, if we start next meeting, I don't think it's committing all 5 council members to that.
Okay. Do you want to just use the 28th,
Yeah.
which is normally when we'd meet, to just do that as a workshop instead?
But, yeah,
Providing we don't run into another overflowing agenda. We might still want to have a meeting at the beginning to do claims and stuff and just whip that out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
but some of the stuff, decisions, that the others, having the workshop with just a couple people, that the others are kept in the loop somehow, not in the workshop. You're just planning that you, Janice, and the mayor?
Well, everyone's
Everyone can be
welcome.
there.
It's
Right.
just
But for the input.
Yeah, we're just open discussion to start, like I said, I know, I want us to all work as a team to get the bloody thing done. And it is the mayor's job to present you the budget, but I'm not gonna present a budget that's so far out of line with what you guys are expecting that we're gonna end up wasting more time hammering that out, so.
Just knowing that alone, what you just said, is the first step to success.
Yeah, so,
And contextually, our budgets have been $80,000. I don't want, if I would say under or over, it's been to our advantage around $80,000 for our budget so far. Like, because of the conservative budgeting, what we do ends up being fairly far off of reality in a good way. So I think part of it is we want to try and get a budget that's a little bit closer to reality, so that we're not always ending up with such an amazing surplus at the end of the year. I mean, that's a good problem to have, but you want your budgets to actually be a little bit closer to what you're going for, I think.
well, and let's not forget that reserves are gonna be important to start.
Yeah.
Because we've been having to replace some stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. So, I don't know if you guys knew, but Donna has her notary. It is allowed but not required to charge a fee for those services. So, just want to throw it out there, is it in the council's interest to charge any kind of fee for notary services? I know I'm personally not interested in advertising that to be done all the time, like, woo-hoo, we have a notary now. I don't want to be out there promoting that. But it is nice having somebody in town, so when something does come up for one of our citizens, that's available.
I don't think anywhere I've ever gone is charged for a notary.
I've never been charged for a notary.
Okay, I just wanna make sure, because
Bunny had her notary.
I believe
Yeah.
she did, yeah.
I didn't know that. Nobody advertised it.
Notary, and then a few others, you know, but
Am I safe to move on that one then?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, back to, and this, okay. You guys, by the way, update, you guys have given me approval to get some of these vehicles salvaged. And we thought we had it all arranged, and the person that was doing it is just, they're not getting here and communicating like they were supposed to, so we're still working on getting rid of those vehicles that were salvaged. We got the titles and everything ready to go, but it's just not getting done. In this case, do you guys know what I'm talking about, the old water truck?
no.
Okay, I've got a picture of it. The Huber grader is the one that's sitting up there
Right.
at the shop, and they were reluctant to get rid of it until they actually tried to get it to start, and they put a new fresh battery in it to see if they could get it to fire up, and
What's
it did nothing. They turned the key, pushed the button.
froze up?
It's just nothing worked. Nothing turned on, nothing. I mean, it was just, so whatever it's got, it's in bad shape. So this is, I'll just pass it around, you guys will. This is an old water truck that was used. I believe it's a Ford. And at first Ken thought we would be able to take the water tank, apparently, according to Scotty, is all rusted out.
Yeah, it's metal, it's.
It's been
gravel.
around for a long time.
Ken wanted to get rid of the tank, scrap the tank, put a flatbed on it, and then get a bunch of poly water tanks and mount them on there and effectively use it in the same way. So
Do you want to see it?
I had him go down there, and again, he started looking into what's involved, and he identified at least $1,000 worth of work that it needs just to get it to run.
Thousands or 8,000?
8,000, but 1,000 plus time and all the rest of it. So he thought it has value, but it has value in basically putting it out to a salvage bid, to like a closed bid.
Honestly, I don't remember seeing it running around. When's the last time it even ran? Does anybody?
I have no idea.
I remember seeing it in the
Depends on who
parade.
you ask.
That thing?
Yeah. You know, I don't know how many years ago, but yeah. We used to come up for
I never.
Fall Festival when I was a kid.
Well, what year is that? About late 70s?
Mid to early 70s, yeah.
What would we be using a water truck for? Assuming that we have a
Flushing
functional
streets.
vac truck.
Flushing the street, yeah. The vac truck right now is probably headed in the same direction, to be honest.
Does it?
Well, right, I know, but
There's a lot of stuff they could use a flusher or a water truck.
Yeah, we need to have something of that capacity, but it doesn't need to be that one. No, right now they're just got a poly tank and they got it mounted on the back of the flatbed they run around, and they're watering the deal. They just thought something bigger with more volume with a pump on it for, like you said, washing down the streets.
Watering the graves, you know, when they have a burial.
so
So, I mean, it's down there parked, it's out of the way, but
This is the first thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. I'd like the Huber, we do have interested people in the grader. The former mayor did get a sealed bid. It's still sitting in the desk sealed. But we've had a different person approach us about, gee, they're interested in getting it. So there's interest in it.
I wonder if they're interested for scrap or if they're getting a run, because it is a finished grade, what's called finished grader. It would be perfect for the alleys and stuff. That would be the use of it in Harrington. Or if you did some street repair, roll out asphalt, small quantities, that would be the use. I think there was something in your thing, they don't have a use for it, but that would be the use for it.
Well, it would be, and if it ran and it wasn't trying to figure out what's wrong with it, they'd probably use it, but
Do you know the year of it by any chance? Did they find out? Is it in the 50s, 60s?
I
I don't know.
I'm I gonna guess it's in that, I mean, safety wise, it's actually probably not even OSHA approved. You just stand in the back while you drive it.
So in regards to the water truck, is it true that there are no meters on anything that the fire district uses?
True.
I don't know the answer, but I think that's correct. I've not,
Okay.
when I was out there walking around doing meter reading, I didn't see anything.
So
I mean, pumping water into usage
I
for
think
fire.
that situation is a bit of a holdover from when we were in a former arrangement with the fire district before the city was formally adopted. And then afterwards, we've had no meters to choose to read. So where I'm going with this is that instead of us having a water truck, we were grateful that the fire district used one of their training opportunities to burn weeds off up there. I think we should come to an arrangement with the fire district for weed burning where applicable and flushing the streets. And they can use that as as a training exercise, and we can come to an arrangement as a bit of a trade for the water. At least until we have meters. Like, there is no meter to, like, you can debate whether we should be reading the meter, but if there's no meter to read, there's nothing we can do to charge them for the water. So perhaps we should formalize a bit of an agreement that, like, they have water trucks that will do everything we need. We don't need to maintain our own, in my opinion.
Only thing is, on a emergency basis, a one-time thing, I'm against trying to get that as to put the burden on, the fire department, which we pay tax for anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I mean, wearing out their stuff, because I think the city's use of it is far outreaches what I think the fire district is going to be able to want us to be obligated
Well, but
for.
it would depend on frequency,
sense.
sure, and I'm not even saying that we couldn't potentially pay the fire district something for it in return for it. But I don't think also that our water that they're getting should necessarily be free from the city to the fire district either.
Well, not now that they annexed us. No. That was part of the dig, part of the deal.
Well, my biggest concern is trying to get some of this stuff cleaned up and cleared out.
Sure,
So-
and,
Oh, you're trying to get
and
the
all of
machine
that
out.
was to say, I guess, in my opinion, I have no interest in the water truck
Okay.
for those reasons.
Okay.
I see a different way of doing it.
Not that type of water truck for
Well,
sure.
we haven't used it, obviously, for
I've never
probably
seen it,
decades.
so. So you need some kind of authorization to solicit sealed bids.
advertise for sealed bids
Okay, well, I
for
make
those
a,
two items.
I make a motion that we authorize the mayor to solicit sealed bids for the two items, the broke down water truck, or the fine water truck down at sewer lagoons, and the Huber grader.
Second.
All right. Okay, we have a motion to put those out to sealed bid. Any further discussion?
No.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, thank you. 4-0.
So now you can go right at it.
Maybe we can get something moved out of here.
Water rates.
Okay, water rates. Okay.
I can speak. I just
So-
don't know where you're going with it exactly.
What-
I can
so-
speak to what I talked to you about.
Yeah, as part of the budget, and it would be a great opportunity to bring it up, I think we need to do something about our water rate structure.
Right.
I'm not hard set on do this or that. I did ask our clerks, and they followed through and made a bunch of checks with some other municipalities, and we're actually surprisingly right in line with what other municipalities are doing. As a matter of fact, most of them are giving out more water as their base charge. Some of them have a higher base charge by a little bit, or they're about the same, but they're also giving away a lot more water.
They pretty much, everything is, say,
It's like
a
$48
freebie.
base rate.
You get
plus,
X
and
amount.
you get 7,400 gallons.
Is there anybody that charges right out the chute
For
In other
like
wo-
per gallon?
Yeah.
No, they're all including,
They'll have a buffer
they'll
built in?
have that base rate.
Okay.
What was surprising is, and I didn't know this, but it makes sense now, is the city charges per 1,000 gallons after you're done with the 5,000 gallons,
Mm-hmm.
the city is charging 25 cents per 1,000 gallons.
Did that fall in line with other cities?
From 5 to 15.
We actually didn't
Or
get
5
that
to
number
20.
Okay.
from them.
So
But-
the rate structure, because I actually looked into this, so you get the first 5,000 gallons included in your base rate. The next 15 out of that, so from 5 to 20, you're paying 25 cents per 1,000 gallons. So 25 cents times 15. Then after 20,000, it's 40 cents per 1,000 gallons.
Okay.
Which means, interestingly enough, for $10 you can buy a third of the water tower.
So. Maybe,
Yeah. No, I don't have like I said, I just think that we need to restructure these to match reality. And that's why this is not a decision-making conversation tonight.
Right. Well, we've talked about this for the last 3-4 years. Never.
Yeah.
Before we do that, I would like to find out, especially now that we have a new motor in the ground, I want to find out what that energy consumption is.
Have you got new figures? I know the last
No,
meeting.
it's too new. It's
Yeah. Okay. Find out, what I would be interested in, is talking about the first 5,000. What does the average home
what
consume in a month?
What I've been seeing is kind of on an average, the average home is using about 3,000 gallons per month.
Right.
Unless those are the next people that are like really going for
Okay.
doing more.
So, what's the next step is we talked about commercial rates, school,
Mm-hmm.
nutrient, and whom else? I think that's about it. That are big water users. Because if you add that all up, do the math, how many not customers, but are hooked to water, what does that equal up to the amount of usage that we use?
Yeah.
You know,
We're finding out. I mean, this,
so until we get good meters that really read something, we're kind of shooting at the moon here.
that's true, but I want this I'd like to see this conversation
Yeah.
on
Again,
the front of our minds all the time. I'm not trying to gouge more money out of the city. That's not the point. The only thing that's important to me is that this is equitable across the board.
right.
But at the same time, we have real bills that have to be paid to get this water out of the ground and sent up. And as we've seen, there's tons of deferred maintenance that we're gonna need to pay for. And maybe in 3 years, if we get all the money that we need to replace every water line in this town, that problem goes away and we can, look at things differently. But water towers, I mean, our water tower needs about $250,000 worth of maintenance and upgrades just to bring it current.
Did you happen, Mr. Mayor, talk to Reardon by any chance when you were looking at some of these water rates?
They just changed the rates.
Because and the reason why I say that, if we go with these, what's it called? We go to these meters and you have to pay extortion fee is what I want to call it, but you have to pay a fee for subscription every year. You know where that's going.
Yep.
It's
So
their rates.
Reardon is now $54.98 for the first 7,470 gallons.
How many? 4?
7,470 gallons.
That's an interesting number.
Yep.
And it's $54.
They just bumped that up. So that includes a recent increase in water of $15 per month. So last year it was $15 less. They also bumped up their sewer rates to $88.83,
Yeah.
which was an increase of $27.
My 2 cents is I would love to see the base rate go down, to see the usage rate go up, and for the net effect for the citizens of this town is that most people would see their total water bill go down, and that hopefully my usage rate for my lawn would double. But I also got a lot of lawn compared to a lot of people in town. Like, in case it gets around, because I know we have a few listeners, people listen live, and there will be more who watch the YouTube video after the fact. This isn't about like making everyone's rates go up all the time. I actually would like to see a majority of the houses pay a lower water bill. But I think that the ones that are using heavily, that would be me included, should be paying a lot more than we are. Because I just think it's bizarre to think that a third of the water tower is $10. You can go to a Walmart and carry more water out of Walmart and spend more than $10. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of the point. So, anyway, we'll get more data, we'll get hard data as it goes along, but I wanted to highlight this information so we know,
Right.
so we can make some educated decisions. And I would love to have the citizens of Harrington have their input on this. You know, anyway, okay. We had no additions to the agenda. Last meeting's council minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, no discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Observe the check record. Let's just review what we've already approved. For
Is
July
it?
24th, yeah.
Has action there, but. We already approved this?
The check record, yeah. This is the claims, so that's the check record.
Yeah.
You've already approved those.
Yeah, I guess we.
And if we have no question, any questions? Okay. Can we have a motion to approve the new claims?
Move to approve. Give it to Cap.
Yeah, thank you. First one, a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion to approve the new claims. Any discussion? What was payroll in there too?
I have a couple questions. Core in Maine, is that a company?
It's a supply house, isn't it? I think you might have the invoices right there. Is that it?
Yeah, true.
Oh. Okay, let's take, we're on new claims right now, so let's finish that up. We'll have to go back to the payroll.
We can't do payroll. It's not on the agenda.
Okay.
Well, it's part of.
I mean, we can do it, but then
It's
we
part
get
of the
another
check
nasty
register.
note from the auditors, so.
Okay, fair enough.
But
We're gonna get a nasty note because we didn't get
Core,
We're supposed
to
to.
answer your question, there used to be a lot of stuff that came from H.D. Fowler.
Yeah,
This is basically the same thing. Core and
Oh.
Main is a supplier
supply
of
house, yeah. For water.
water and sewer main products.
gotcha.
How come it
Um,
doesn't charge stations?
Yeah.
Second thing, J.R. Massey retainage for emergency water.
So, that's another pass-through. So when the emergency water project was done,
Which one?
the one under the railroad tracks.
Okay,
So
yeah.
they were the primary contractor on that.
Right.
When they get paid, they withhold the state withholds 5%, and it's called retainage.
Okay.
And it's basically a financial way to make sure that they get the job done, and they don't get it until basically the project is done and complete.
Okay.
So that's what that is.
So that's still paying through to that other, okay. And I also see the hydro seedings for that too, which we talked about that a couple meetings ago, so.
Yeah.
Okay, this list of claims.
So again, that's pass-through money, so I believe that money's already in our account, the retainage. Yeah,
And my question,
yes.
all right, is Homey Electric and Pump, 50,760,
Mm-hmm.
and then Homey Electrical Work, 10,000.
Yes. So
That was,
the $50,760 was the whole, pull the pump, put the new one in the ground. The $10,476 was the subsequent electric work that had to be done the next week because the circuit breaker wasn't
on the
good.
panel.
On the panel,
Oh,
the
right,
circuit
okay.
breaker was bad. And that also included $8,000 of that is the computer control module. And we've already put it to good use. The new pump was putting out, as I thought, way better pressure, way more volume of water.
the new one?
Yeah, and it was stressing the pipes. So the new motor, they were able to turn it back, take it off the rev limit. So we now have a cap or a maximum of 96 pounds being pumped out instead of 110. And that'll save our pipes.
And I know that when we wrote the grant for that there was extra built into it. Are we netting anything out of pocket, or is it all covered?
So ironically, we brought to the attention that, so the original deal, we got the $50,000 approved, and then I said, can we add 10% onto it just because things don't go right? And so they gave us another 5%. I got an email today that they've actually approved the additional, what amounts to, I think, $6,100 and change. They've approved all of that, including some of the equipment that got put in there on an emergency basis, like air conditioners. So they're gonna, because it's all.
I'll
part
bill
of
you
the
guys
same
for the
project.
wood and screws. They're really good screws.
So, thank you to the state of Washington and the emergency rapid response for coming to our rescue on that.
So they didn't cover the whole 61,000?
They're covering the whole thing.
The whole thing is?
Yes. So if we're out of pocket anything, it's gonna be in the hundreds of dollars, not the thousands of dollars.
Pretty good deal for a new pump.
Very much so.
If no one's got anything else, I want to speak to my reimbursements, because to David's point, we're trying not to reimburse mayors and councilmen if we can help it. So I just want to give justification for why I'm getting city dollars again. First of all, the majority of that is this little guy, $350, but it is one of the few that will give us what we need as far as this has a 3 sensor for 3-phase power. And that will monitor the power usage, and I'll be able to automatically even put that onto a website at our city's domain, and you can see day and night how much electricity we've used, whether it's on or not, when's the last time it ran, what percentage of the day it's running, all this kind of stuff that we were just guessing, and it was kind of critical when you're like, well, if something goes wrong, has it been running a lot or a little? And we had no clue.
This is the well you're talking about? For the well?
Yeah. So that's the majority of that $642 is this guy. Also, for our password subscription and for the phones, I tried again and again and again to use our city credit card. I'm happy to say that it appears like it has some of the best security features known to man, because it was impossible for me to use the city credit card after like 7 or 8 attempts. Donna kept calling Wheatland and improving, and it never worked. So eventually we just said no. The phones are preloaded $150 into the future, which is great considering we were paying, I think, $160 per month to CenturyLink, and now we pay less, about $100 a year-ish for all of our phone system. We've got 4 phones, between us and the library. Everyone could be talking at the same time, voicemail, phone trees, all that. So we're doing really good on saving money there. And then lastly, the particle sensors, I'm going to put pressure sensors, that we talked about this last meeting, on the water tower. So, because in theory, when the water tower is full, our pressure is at its highest. And when the water tower is empty, then our pressure is going down. So this monitors whether the well is on or off, but it won't tell us whether the water tower is full. So I'm hoping to add to those sensors to say, hey, we're at 75% full, so this time of year we have X number of hours of runtime. That would be extremely handy with the problems we've had in the last couple of years with our water.
And you have not purchased those yet?
This is just the reader.
Yeah.
The particle reader reads the thing. I'm going to have another thing that I'm going to, hopefully Donna should be able to order that. I'll send it to her and have her try and order it first, so it won't be a reimbursement to me. But the sensors are yet to be ordered. That'll be probably another couple $100, and I think I'll be done with all the sensor purchases at that point. I still have a fair amount of coding to do to hook it all up, but going a good direction.
Okay.
At least we'll know what the heck's going on with water before we get phone calls at 2 o'clock in the morning asking why.
You know, Ken,
Has it ever been looked into to see how much it costs to fix that gauge on the side of the?
I don't think we've had anybody brave enough to climb up it.
Go for it.
Do it.
My grandma sent my cousin up there when he was about 12 because he threw a ball up there.
It's a perfectly round ball. You go back up there and get that. Okay, so moving on to the claims, we have a motion to approve them. Any further discussion?
negative.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Abstention.
Thank you. Mayor's comments, I'll make it fast. Our water system plan has been submitted to the Department of Health.
Awesome.
Okay. So that's in process. I've gotten a copy of the first response on our wastewater treatment plant project. They have come back with their first list of questions and queries and corrections that they want to see, which is 5 pages long, but that's for our engineer to take care of, but that's in process. There's been a grant application submitted to get the money to pay for a hydrogeo engineer. We don't know if that's been granted yet, but at least the application's in. And that just pays for the consulting for someone to come in and find a new place to put a well. And the last is, I'm starting the grant application for meters. I sent you the email about the meters. Thank you. The ceiling per recipient is $125,000. I know the meters won't cost that much, but I'm gonna request the entire 125 because there's a number of meters that are gonna have to be relocated, which
Right.
means digging new risers, new this, new that. The goal would be, if we're gonna put in new meters, we might as put them where they belong. So if, if it's not on the right of way, then it needs to be moved. If it's in the basement, we'll just leave it there and we'll put a new meter in the right of way. So,
That may not be such a good idea, and I'll give you an example of that. Several years ago, my water main broke. And at the time, I was having somebody do some work next door and then on my house too, excuse me. And I called the city and they said, well, sorry, your problem. So I went ahead and I had it fixed to the tune of $5,000 to dig it all up out to the alley, and called some department in Olympia, and they said, no, if the meter is on your property, then it's their problem to fix it. So I several times I talked to Jess about it. Didn't work.
okay.
Well, usually the city's responsible up to that meter.
Yes.
The way it's supposed
Yes.
to be is that you're responsible for the water line on your property into your house, and that's why the meter realistically should be in the right of way as close to the property line as possible. And there's a lot of them that they're not even in the basement. There's a lot of them out there that are in somebody's driveway.
Well,
So,
and my question is, there are some people in the city of Harrington that their meters are on their property or in their basement. Others are out, and who's being charged what for that?
well, and that's what I'm trying to say, is if we're gonna be putting in brand new meters, we should be putting them in the right of way.
Well, putting them in so everybody's paying the same.
Well-
Basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, even the ones, I can think of a couple that are in the middle of their yard.
This would be
They're paying, their meters are getting read, it's just, if we're gonna be replacing the actual meter head, we're gonna put it in the right of way. So for the future, it's just, because the goal is to have our meter reader just simply almost walk right down the street and.
Not have to look for it.
Well, they'll have to know where it is. They have to get within so close, but it'll have a wand that they can do it, and it's a small reader that they'll have in their hand. You guys saw the information, so.
right.
You're supposed to read it, you're supposed to be able to drive by and
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Well, that's a different setup than Ferguson actually proposed, though.
oh, is it?
I think Ferguson's includes a hand unit and a wand.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because if I'm understanding that PDF that was sent correctly, it requires a different type of transmitter that's stronger for it to read it from a vehicle. Like
Oh.
the nice thing is, like when you do the hand one, you have to get it within like a foot or something like that because it's all low power all the way around. But for it to be picked up by a car that could be 20 feet away in the street, that's a lot more power considering, like on Willis, they're going to be like 3 feet underground, right? So it's like it has to transmit that out quite a ways. The other thing that I would say is that I'm not going to turn down free meters at all, but from what I can tell, the meters that they're proposing are not ones that we could read ourselves under any circumstances in an automated fashion. However, I would, as long as they are not going to set up a contract that puts us, like, as long as we could stop using their software within a year, because I looked at the details for the hand reader. When you go and push the wand next to it, it should go beep, and there should be a reading come up on the screen. As long as we could stop using their software if we wanted to, and write down that number that's on the screen and go about our business, because there's a thing in that Ferguson proposal, I think, for $4,000 for the software, and then $1,500 for the first year of support. So my question is, what's the second year? Does the second year have $4,000 to buy the license? Is that a yearly license fee for $4,000, and then the support is an additional two and a half after that? So we need to be real careful about. But all of that aside, to say, as long as like we could do this for a year, take the grant, and then if we wanted to walk away and start writing things down from the screen, then I'm good. Free meters are free meters. So.
Yeah. So.
I'll have to start. Okay.
Okay, yes, and that's, since I have the floor, I'm gonna talk. I gave you some information about our connections. And I was fumbling with the information when I was telling you, so I made sure I looked it up. Our city right now with our water license is approved for 260 connections.
260?
260. We currently have 252 and soon to be 253 connections. So, point is, if anybody's concerned about, Harrington exploding and growing and having 100-foot or 100-person development built in the city, we only have 7 water connections available.
Is that kind of like along the water right?
It's a water rights thing, yeah. So just a heads up on that. That might change if we get new wells and all the rest of that. We have greater capacity down the road, but
So act soon, people.
just saying.
They're going like hotcakes.
Well, they're not, but
I know.
there's
Do we have any of the, any old meters left? Or like in the shop?
We have one.
One.
We have one, and that's why I've been hesitant. We can buy water meters, they're about $100, the analog ones that we have. And I would rather not spend the money, but we probably need to spend some of that because some of our meters are broken or
Just
not-
unusable,
not
yeah.
reading, so.
So I get sick of having to go out there and turn it on when I want water and it's spraying.
Yeah, so. Okay, that's all I got.
Okay.
We don't have any public comments. Do we have any more comments from the council?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn, first and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
I,